it's not necessarily a bad thing when we follow what's going on around us, but it sometimes is not such a great thing either.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
You know, it's funny as you grow older, at least my experience has been, you kind of become your dad. If you're a guy, and you kind of become your mom, I guess, if you're female. I don't know if that's totally true, but I do find myself every once in a while opening up my mouth and saying, "Oh, geez, did I really just quote my dad there?" My dad had a phrase that he used when we used to talk about. Well, every kid, until you learn better, every kid has used this line, right? Well, Dad, everybody's doing it, right? And then the phrase that my dad would use is, "Well, if everyone was wearing Cowpies on their head, would you do it?" And I used to think about that, and think, well, maybe I would. We are sponsored today by ANow software. ANow, of course, is a great management tool for appraisers. It's a management tool that will allow you to know your numbers. And when you know your numbers, you know your business. So why not know your numbers? And why not allow a software like ANow to do it for you? They do all the hard, heavy lifting, so you can make all the hard, heavy decisions as a business owner. Check them out. Go to anow.com. That's ANOW.com. All right, folks, I want to know, if everybody was wearing Cowpies on their head, would you do it as well? I'll wait for the answer. I think my dad was trying to use the most ridiculous analogy he possibly could use, right? To make the point that just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that it's a good idea to do. Of course, when you're 12 years old and you're trying to move past the sarcasm that your dad is throwing at you, you might think through that just a little bit and go, well, if everybody else is doing it, there must be something to it, right? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not with the Cowpie thing. Let's talk business for just a moment. Let's talk about this idea of conformity. Let's talk about this idea of, when you've got a bunch of people kind of doing the same thing, is there some type of precedence that maybe they're doing it right? I would say that in most cases, that is the case. Okay. Now let me step back for just a second. I'm not just talking about business. When I say that in most cases that is the case, I'm talking about in general, the world is that when you observe people doing a certain thing, there's a pretty good chance that that's quote unquote the right way to do it. Okay, think about driving. Okay, I don't know if you've ever driven outside the U.S. and specifically if you've ever driven on the quote unquote wrong side of the road. Okay, it can be a harrowing experience, especially when there's roundabouts. Okay, roundabouts are hard enough to navigate here at home, and I've had this experience on more than one occasion. And I can tell you that one of the things that helps me is to observe what other drivers are doing and kind of follow their lead. Right? That doesn't mean that you follow like lemmings, but there's something to the fact that if you look around and see what everybody else is doing when you're not sure what you're doing, right, that there's a pretty good chance that they're doing it right. And by following them, you're probably not going to get into too much trouble. It can go too far. You've probably heard of the study. In fact, it's on video. I'm not sure how to look it up for you, but there's an experiment that was done, I think, in a doctor's office waiting room where basically everybody was in on it. Other than, maybe a few, right? So the subject matter individuals would come in and everybody else was kind of in on the secret. And what would happen is, I don't know if it was a phone ringing or a bell in the back ring or something like that, but every time that would happen, they would stand up. Okay, so this group, let's say there's 10 people in the room and a bell rings and 7 people stand up, right? And then they sit back down. Well, these other 3 are looking at them like, okay, what did I miss here? What's going on here? And, maybe a minute later a bell rings and 7 people stand up and the other, maybe 8 people this time stand up because one of them's like, maybe I should be standing. And this experiment goes on, and I don't remember all the details. I could be getting it incorrect. But the point is, by observing others, a lot of people will follow through. And of course, they're trying to make the point of, we're a bunch of lemmings. We follow each other. Well, there's safety in that. This goes back to evolution, right? If everybody's running from a tiger and you're standing there saying, well, gee, why is everybody running? You're probably going to be the one eaten, okay? So it's not necessarily a bad thing when we follow what's going on around us, but it sometimes is not such a great thing either. And that's kind of the context that I wanted to talk about today. If everyone was wearing Cowpies on their heads, would you do it as well? Well, maybe there's something to it, right? Why are they wearing Cowpies on their head? Does it grow hair? I might be interested in that. I don't know. Let's at least look into it, okay? Now, to blindly throw a Cowpie on your head because 10 other people are walking down the road, handing out Cowpies to wear, and they're all wearing them themselves, probably a little much, I would guess, for most of us, okay? And of course, I'm being facetious and I'm being exaggeratory, and so was my dad, of course, when he used the phrase to begin with. But the principle, I think, is true, right? Meaning that most of the time following the crowd is probably not going to get you in trouble. There are certain times that it does, and it does with business all the time, which is what I want to talk about when we get back from the break. But first, want to pause and share with you an exciting thing when it comes to your business and when it comes specifically to your appraisal business, because this software was created by appraisers for appraisers. Great Marty Haldane, thank you, Marty, for creating ANow software. ANow will allow you to know exactly what's going on with each of the orders that you're dealing with in your office, as well as your business in general, because it keeps track of everything, folks. It's incredible. Check it out. Go to anow.com. Again, it's anow.com. All right, folks, welcome back. We are talking about cowpies today. We are talking about wearing cowpies on our heads. And the point is, folks, just because everybody else is doing it obviously doesn't mean that you should be as well. Let me give you an example where this can be a negative for your business. In other words, following the crowd can be a negative for your business, right? Most appraisers, when the interest rates started going up in the spring, sat back and waited for their fax machines to ring. That's what they did. Folks, if you are one that's going to follow the crowd and you're going to do what everybody else is doing, you're still watching that fax machine, hoping that it's going to ring. And guess what? People don't use fax machines anymore. Sorry to tell you. Sorry to break that to you. I know it's like revealing there's no Santa Claus. But the point is if you sit back and do what everybody else is doing, well, guess what? You're going to get what everybody else has gotten. Which, by the way, if you're looking around, isn't much. Kind of the point of today's episode. Look and see what everybody else is doing and ask yourself, is it working for them? If the answer is no, the next question has to be, well, what can I do that's different? What can I do that's going to make me stand out above the crowd? What's going to make me not follow the crowd by putting cowpies on my head like everybody else, but actually go out and do something different, which is going to bring me different results? One of the things I've been talking about with my crew here in Idaho lately has been this idea that with the interest rates going up and the mortgage applications going down, that does not necessarily mean that we personally have to do less volume. Right? If we get in front of this and we get in front of our clients and show them that we are the absolute best client out there, right? Guess what? They may have dropped from 10 appraisal orders a day to 4, right? But you're still going to get 2 of the 4, where before maybe you were getting 3 of the 10. Do you see my point? Yes, you're going to drop a little bit, but you're not going to drop completely, especially if you're focused on being different. Thank you for joining me today. I'll tell you what's different as well. There's a lot of Facebook groups out there that are very negative. You ask a question, you get berated. You ask some advice, and everybody says, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That will never happen in the All-Star Team Facebook group. It is a private group. It's by invitation only. You must be a member. I would highly encourage, that's just one of the benefits of being a part of the All-Star Team. Check us out by going to theappraisercoach.com/memberships.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star Team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.